Morning, Joe. How are you?
Morning, Adam. I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Strange times, obviously, at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah. So just wanted to say to anyone watching this right from the offset, Joe is one of our newer agents. Just joined eXp quite recently, and this is part of our series of warts and all video diary style sort of interviews with agents who want to be interviewed about their journey with eXp, why they joined, how they're getting on, what their successes are, what their failures are. We're happy to disclose everything and be very transparent about what it's like to be a self-employed agent, because it is a new thing in the UK for a lot of people to be watching. So, Joe, welcome to eXp. Firstly,
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries. We're delighted to have you. So, I suppose people are going to want to know why you joined eXp. Well, no, give us your background first. Tell us a bit about yourself first.
Okay. So I started off as an estate agent in East London, and I did 12 years in London and West Essex, and had a great career. And then I moved out to Dubai, just as the crash happened there, which was interesting times. But out there, you are self-employed, so the model out there is very similar to the American model. There's a lot of different kinds of influences in the estate agency in Dubai, but it's very different to here. So yeah, I did 4 years in Dubai, covering the Burj Khalifa, the Palm, some beautiful developments. And then I had my family out there, and then I've come home. So now obviously I've got children, but I want to go back to doing what I do best, which is obviously estate agency. I decided that I didn't want to get a job because that wouldn't suit me or my lifestyle, but I wanted to go back into estate agency. So I kind of shopped around. I considered doing recruitment for a while in estate agency, but I just felt like the technology's moved on so much. It's such an exciting time to be an estate agent with the technology that we have and the options that people have. So I just kind of felt like my heart wasn't in the recruitment side of it, and I wanted to get back into doing because to me it doesn't feel like a job. It doesn't feel like work. It's something that I'm really passionate about. So obviously I've known Ian from a long time. He actually recruited me for my first job in the estate agency. So I was quite skeptical at first about the whole self-employed model working here, having done it in Dubai. And in the past I've worked for some amazing estate agents on the high street, and I just I wasn't convinced at first it was going to work here. But now I honestly believe it is the way forward, and it gives the client a really good option as to who they want to use as an agent, because obviously it's about them. But for me, it works because in Dubai, what I learned was that you are self-sufficient. So you do the valuation, you do the viewings, you agree the sale, and you do the conveyancing. So that client only ever deals with you, which is something that I learned worked best for me personally, that I wanted to be the client's only contact.
So when we first met, I flew up to meet you, didn't I?
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that stuck out for me, was you were super passionate about the fact that you felt you could deliver that personal end-to-end service rather than the client being pushed from pillar to post. The valuer comes out, values it, then someone goes off and does the negotiating, and then the sales progressor comes along, and all these different elements. And all right, that's the model we've got at the moment, but that was one of the things that I think stood out for you. Just going back to Dubai, one of the really I guess insightful questions for me, that move from being employed to self-employed in a different country, how did you cope with that? What was the support you had? What were the mechanisms that you used to cope? How did you overcome the fear?
It was huge, and obviously when I went out there, it was Ramadan and the market was literally crashing. And things that you don't think of, like the currency and phone numbers, you're writing down clients' phone numbers and it's completely different. But yeah, I mean, I look back now and I think, God, I can't believe I did it, but I did. But I just felt really passionate that Dubai was somewhere that I wanted to learn estate agency out there, because it is a melting pot of so many different cultures. So as hard as it was, and I am predominantly a sales agent, but I had to turn my hand to doing lettings because the sales just weren't going through. So for a while I just did lettings, but yeah, it was a huge change, absolutely huge.
And was there fear there? It must have been fear to A, go to a new country, and B, to not be employed, I guess. How did you overcome
Yeah,
that fear?
there was, yeah, and I think a lot of people thought I was crazy, but because estate agency for me, you know, I always say it's not my job, it's my passion. And I felt really passionate about it, so I just kept going. And you know, it's very feast and famine when you are self-employed, especially when you're in a different country and you don't have the support network of friends and family. So yeah, I guess you know, it was a crazy time, but I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about the industry on probably quite a global level. So it was a good, yeah, it was a good experience. Yeah, it was crazy to do it, but
Yeah.
you
And
know, you live and learn.
yeah, exactly. 4 years is a long time to last out in Dubai. I know people that have not even made 4 months. So
Yeah.
it is very
Well, I
good.
lived there for 10 in total, but 4
Okay.
working as an estate agent.
Okay.
But it was worth it. That's the thing, Adam, is that I did have some really dark days, but then I had some amazing days. You know, I was the first estate agent they ever let into the Burj Khalifa when it launched, and that for me was a huge privilege.
Yeah.
You know, so I had some fantastic experiences, but it's life, isn't it? You have to take the good with the bad. It's not all plain sailing.
Yeah. And then, so coming back to the UK or getting back into estate agency after having the family, so why EXP, I guess? Did you look at other models? Was it just, obviously, so those who are watching, Joe mentioned Ian earlier, a chap called Ian Dobrin, who's an integral part of EXP, ex-recruitment director at Connells Group, unbelievable positions that he's held, etc., etc., etc. So was it just down to Ian Dobrin, or did you look at other models, or what was your sort of take on why EXP?
Yeah, I mean, I've known Ian since I was a trainee estate agent. I worked for Ian, some worked for me. It was actually him that talked me into going to Dubai, which I never forgive him for. So me and Ian go back a long way, and I trust Ian. But I did look at other models, of course, and I did consider setting up completely on my own, and I looked into it. But what I like about EXP is you are an independent agent and you can create your own business, but you also have the support network. And through these challenging times that we've had over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I think what has kept me sane on a professional level is knowing that I've got that support network with my EXP colleagues. And even just things, you know, Friday morning when we have our meeting is kind of like the highlight of my week just now. So you've got the best of both worlds, but I also really like the influence that we have with the American agents. So although obviously their model is not what would work for us, you know, just to have that insight of how they work.
I think it'd be, you know, I was really clear with the American leadership when we first started talking to EXP that it has to be a British company with UK values and British operations and etc., etc., etc. But you know, the American payment model of how agents are paid is much more lucrative than it is in the UK, which we were happy to obviously bring over. That was the whole point of it, really. But also, I think it'd be daft not to try and learn from other people around the world. You know,
Yeah.
in my learning, I've realised that the UK are we're the odd ones out. We're the ones that employ everybody and pay people a basic salary and 5 or 10%. The rest of the world are all self-employed and earning, you know, the lion's share of the fee. So we're actually the strange ones in many ways. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that the network of existing agents and that American sort of training that we can get, and just listening to another opinion, listening to another set of voices has been
Well, it
invaluable
gives
for
the
me.
client a choice, doesn't it? You know, the client can use an agent that will sell their house for 50p in a Mars bar, or they can sell their house to someone that will give them amazing service, make it actually, you know, not stressful, but get them the best possible price. But I think, like, to a certain degree, I was really arrogant when I went to Dubai about being a British estate agent, and you know, we're a really established market, and da 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 da. But yeah, I think that we can learn a lot from other countries.
Yeah, I agree. No, 100%.
Because in other countries, you know, it is considered to be much more of a professional job. It's a lot higher caliber. You have to have a qualification in it. So there is a lot to be learned from that. I'm not suggesting that we adopt their procedures and their policies, no, because, you know, we have a great system here. But just in terms of like the marketing and the service and the productivity of each individual agent, you know, I've joined a lot of Facebook groups in America just to see how they do it.
Yeah.
See what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree. I've always, you know, my whole, I mean, you talk to Olivia who works at eXp and worked for me at Hatched, and she'll know, and Tori as well, and they'll both know my mantra, which has always been, I want the public, the great British public, to see agents as their agent. You know, my accountant is Lisa. I don't care where Lisa works. I don't care who she works for. I'm going to go and follow Lisa wherever she goes because she's my accountant. And I want people to see me as their estate agent. I want to see people to see you as their estate agent. I want people to go, oh, I'm going to speak to my estate agent. I'm going to speak to Jo Hood. She's my estate agent. And that, I always felt I could achieve that with Hatched, and I didn't because the model wasn't set up correctly. With self-employed agency, what I've learned over the last 6 to 12 months now from the US as much as from doing this over here in the UK is that you can now create that with a self-employed model. You can belong to people as their estate agent and therefore give them a much higher service and earn a better fee out of it, you know, because people are happy to pay it if they're going to get a much better service, much more personal service. So,
Exactly.
so yeah, no, it's great to have.
That's why I think it's so important that they just deal with one person, because to have, you know, to build up a rapport with somebody and they take your house on and then you get shoved to somebody else who perhaps you don't like and you don't trust, and then somebody else and somebody else, just doesn't work. If you get to know your client and you know why they're moving, what are they looking for, what is their time scale, then you can kind of help them and guide them through the process and make it a lot less stressful for them, which ultimately has to be the goal, is that it's not as stressful for them and they achieve what they need to achieve, whether that's that you've sold the house for the best price or you've done it in their time scale or whatever it is. Only you as one person they deal with can really kind of execute that properly.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So I couldn't go back to being a high street agent because that privilege would be taken away from me and I wouldn't feel that I'd be giving the client best possible service.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I mentioned earlier when I came up to see you, I could see how passionate you are about the customer, and that's really important, which is great. So one sort of coming towards the end of just our chat, what's your strategy for winning customers in the what's your go-to strategy? You know, you have to lead generate yourself. That's one. You know, if there's a downside to any of these self-employed models, you've got to self-generate. You've got to lead generate yourself. What's going to be your strategy, Jo? You've been there, done it in Dubai.
Yeah, so I think that's the beauty of it, is that you have got to do it yourself. So I know what my target market is. My target market is seasoned investors. And I think that after all of this, that things like Airbnb are going to become a lot more profitable because people aren't going to want a holiday abroad. And your sort of mum, dad and 2 kids, your owner occupiers. So through portals such as my chosen portals for my target market is Facebook and LinkedIn. So they're the 2 platforms that I will use. Whereas another agent, perhaps, you know, you might be doing rentals in a trendy part of town, and maybe TikTok and Twitter would be, you know, your social media. I also think that sponsorship is a really important part of what we do. So sponsoring schools and local events and getting your name out there that way, if that is your target market. But I think you have to really narrow down, you know, who is it that you're going to choose to be your client and go after them, find out where do they hang out, what social mediums are they on, and you know, basically that's how I see my business going forward. And then you get to the stage where you're picking up business because of recommendations, and that ultimately is the end goal. But to start with, you know, it's so easy for us now. It's so easy. You know, back in the day we didn't have technology. But every single client that I want to deal with is either on my LinkedIn or my Facebook.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. That's fascinating. Everyone's got a different answer, but getting to know your client is probably, or the client that you want to deal with is absolutely key, and that's a brilliant piece of advice for anyone watching. So, and just so we're in the middle of coronavirus. It is the 14th of April today. We don't know how long this is going to go on for. what are your, so let's pretend we're out on the 1st of May. Let's just pretend. Have you set yourself targets to achieve a certain amount of instruction sales in month 1, month 2, month 3, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I think once we come out, I mean, I've warned my friends and family that they're probably not going to see me for the rest of the year because it's going to be really busy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's very difficult to predict, but I think when we come out, I think the first couple of weeks, stroke month, it's going to be people just getting back to normal, ladies getting their hair done, you know, getting things done, like whatever. I think after the first month, I think we're going to see a real influx of instructions coming on the market, and a lot of people moving for a lot of different reasons. You know, it's like obviously over Christmas, you know, January is a really busy time for lots of different industries because of things that happen over Christmas, and that is going to be multiplied massively. So I think, yeah, the 3rd and the 4th quarter of this year is going to be super busy. I can't even predict it at the moment, Adam. I just think it's going to go crazy.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that. My sentiments as well. Well, so look, I mean, that's a sort of brilliant introduction. We're going to do this every month with Jo's blessing, obviously. We're going to sort of follow Jo's story in terms of what she's doing, how she's doing things, how many instructions, how many sales. You know, we'll go into potentially banking revenue if Jo's happy to do that as well.
No pressure.
And yeah, no, I know. Well, this is part of the reason. So I do these calls with whoever wants them done as an accountability type thing. Some people want to be held, you know, to account, as it were, and want to have that sort of that sounding board to bounce off of, and others don't. Some people want this recording to be put out there live because it puts even more pressure on them, and you're one of those, which is good. But yeah, so yeah, no pressure, like you say. But if you are, you know, self-employed agency isn't for everybody, but I think if you have the right mentality and the right approach, and have got the right background like Jo has, then, you know, and we're only allowing experienced agents to join eXp, by the way, then it's probably something you should look into. And Jo's spoken passionate about it, and that's why we love having her on board. So if you're interested in self-employed agency, then my suggestion is you speak to Jo, don't speak to me. Jo's on the front line. She knows what it's all about, why she joined, what you have to do, and she'd be a great person to speak to. So all I've got to say, Jo, is thank you very much for your time. Stay safe.
Thank you. I'm happy to answer anybody's questions if they're thinking about becoming a self-employed agent. You know, I'm happy to talk to people as to why I've done it and why I think it works. As you say, it's not for everybody, but for some people, it's life-changing in a positive way.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. All right, Jo, thank you very much for your time.
Right, have a good day.
All right, you too. Stay safe. See
All
ya.
right, speak to you later.
Bye.
Bye.